Good morning. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. So, what does a Kohein actually do all day? During the time when a Kohein is serving in the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, what does he do? We learn in this week's Torah portion, the laws concerning a Kohein. And the Torah says, near the beginning of our parsha, V'kidashto, and he shall be sanctified, holy. He is holy. Ki es lechem elokecha hu makriv, because he offers the bread to God in terms of sacrifices. Kadosh yilach, and he has to be holy to you and me. You and I have to feel that a Kohen is holy. And that has practical consequences. The Talmud tells us, and we know from attending shul, Kohen Kori Rishon. When we read from the Torah, the first one to be called is a Kohen. The Talmud goes further and to say, L'chal davar shebikdusha, for every aspect of holiness, the Kohen has to be shown deference. The Kohen has to be shown preference. Liftoach Rishon, he's the first one to read from the Torah. Ulevarech Rishon, the first one to be asked to say a blessing. Litol Mana Yafa Rishon, the first one to be served a good serving of whatever it is you're serving. You should serve to the Kohen first. Okay, but what actually does he do all day? Well, a Kohen who is officiating in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. We're reviewing the book of Vayikra, which is, as I said before, Torah's Kahanim, the laws of the Kohen. What does he do all day? Well, he slaughters animals. He butchers them. For the sum of the sacrifices, he cooks them. Not for the individual sacrifices. Those are taken home and done by the people that offer them, but for the parts that go to the Kohen and for the parts that are public offerings, he roasts them. He eats portions from all of the sacrifices of the different types of offerings. He mixes dough, flour, and oil, bakes it, eats part of that, cleans up. There's a lot of cleaning up that had to be done. That's most of the day of a Kohen serving in the Beit HaMikdash. So let me ask you a question. How does that merit the Kidashto? And he has to be holy in our eyes, and we have to treat him specially. We have to treat him in a special manner. Because he slaughters animals, because he roasts them, because he cleans up, because he bakes. I mean, it doesn't really seem like that's such holy stuff that he's doing, which is the bulk of his time. My colleague, friend, teacher, Rabbi Menachem Penner, shared this insight. Yes, most of what the Kohen did on a daily basis in the Holy Temple was very mundane. There are people all around us, even ourselves, who do many of those activities every day. The difference is, the Kohen did it lifnei Hashem, with the awareness that it was being done in the immediate presence of God. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, wore an object called a tzitz. It was like a plate that was worn on his forehead. It was not for him to see. I mean, he could feel it wearing it, but he didn't see it. It was for the other Kohanim to see. And written on this were the words, Kodesh Lashem, holy to God. Meaning, at every moment, when you're serving in this holy place, every action that you do, it is Lifnei Hashem. It's in the presence of God. A Kohen realizes that they are in the most important place in the world, the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. They realize that they are the conduit of every Jewish person, every person, human being, to God, they realize that the eyes of God are on them. And with this intensity and with this realization, they elevate their mundane tasks to sublime service, calling for all the laws and the restrictions of the Kohen. The beginning of our Torah portion talks about the restrictions on who a Kohen can marry. A Kohen cannot come into contact with a dead body except for very, very rare exceptions. And the duty to be honored, v'kidashto, and all of those consequences of going first, being treated with respect, with honor because of this holiness. But here's something amazing. Because then, during the day, along comes a Jew, a simple Jew. And this Jew shows up in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash with the first of his fruits, truma. Truma is the gift of the first fruits that each person living in Israel would bring to the Kohen. And he comes and he gives it to the Kohen. That gift, those food items, are kadosh. They're holy. But they're holy not because the Kohen makes them holy. They are holy because of the designation of the owner. When the owner in his field or her field or orchard picks the first fruit and says the words, Harei zeh truma, this will be a gift that will be given to a Kohen. It is the farmer's words, designation, that makes it holy. Doesn't become holy from the Kohen. Becomes holy from the owner when he or she designates it. And at that moment, when the Kohen receives this gift, the Kohen gets to appreciate that any Jew, the simplest Jew, can have and create unimaginable holiness. It doesn't come from a Kohen. By the way, our practice that before we have a meal that includes bread, we wash our hands and make a bracha, that washing of the hands is reminiscent of the purification ritual that the Kohen had to do before eating that truma that he was given. The Kohen had to purify himself. Not because he did anything, but because the owner, a simple Jew, did something by designating it as holy. And that reinforces for the Kohen and for every one of us that the deepest holiness does not come from who you are. It does not even come from what you do. Holiness comes primarily from the awareness that you are doing it Lifnei Hashem, in the presence of God. The message of this week's Torah portion, and the last several Torah portions, the message of the entire book of Vayikra, whose goal is Kedusha, is holiness, and we've discussed this in a variety of ways over the last several weeks. But the fundamental message is holiness is not a person. It could come from the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. It could come from a simple Jewish man or woman. It doesn't depend on position or wealth or knowledge. Holiness is not a place. It could be the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. It could be alone on a road. It could be in a field or an orchard. And holiness is not an activity. It could be offering a sacrifice to God, or it could be telling the truth, or taking care of an animal, or washing the dishes. Holiness is when any of these things happen with the awareness that it is Lifnei Hashem, in God's presence. That's holiness. Lifnei Hashem. Holiness does not come from ritual or mitzvah or even from goodness. Holiness comes from awareness. That at any moment, in any place, through any means, we can connect to God. And this awareness is one of the most fundamental missions in our lives as Jews, as we read in last week's Torah portion and we discussed. Kedoshim Tiyu. Every one of us has the mission to be holy, the mission to connect with God. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.